Well, good evening. Welcome to the Pregnancy Helpline Center of Three Rivers annual benefit. And while many of you can't be with us at a number of our remote locations, we're thrilled to welcome you to this year's live stream event, marking now the 25-year anniversary of this remarkable ministry, serving the image bearers of God now for nearly 3 decades in our community. My name is John Kohler. I serve as the lead pastor here at Verse by Verse Church. Our heartfelt thanks also to those pastors and churches that have volunteered their facilities as well for remote seating, and the 41 underwriters who have sponsored this event. We're all thrilled to come alongside and be a part of blessing the Helpline and celebrating their 25 years this evening. And make no mistake about it, that's what this evening is all about, celebrating what this wonderful ministry has done, is doing, and with your help in these difficult days will continue to do in our community. Here at Verse by Verse Church, we put a very high premium upon teaching the uncompromised Word of God. And so with that, we're very selective and we're very careful about who we choose to partner with here in St. Joe County. The Pregnancy Helpline is one of those organizations we partner with, and that really for a couple of compelling reasons. Number one, because these folks, they are serving in the trenches on the front line, seeking to champion the sanctity of life. It's always baffling to me, particularly in this day and age filled with so many false narratives, why the sanctity of human life isn't celebrated with greater preeminence than it is. Well, tonight, as we ought, we turn our attention squarely to celebrating just that. And then secondly, VXV has partnered with a helpline to invoke Matthew chapter 10 here, because these folks are not merely giving the cup of cold water, but they're giving the cup of cold water in Jesus' name, which is to say, not only are these folks ministering to temporal needs, but they are ministering to the ever-present and important eternal needs as well. So it is my prayer that we might enjoy this special evening together, celebrating the work of this mission-critical ministry in our community, and that the Lord might move upon all of our hearts here this evening, not only to participate and be a part of this celebration, but also to be a part of supporting the ongoing effectiveness of an organization that is pursuing with great valor the sanctity of life in our little corner of the world. I would like to offer a brief prayer to begin, and then we'll introduce Don Bowen to begin the evening. Let's pray together. Father in heaven, Lord, thank you for the gospel of Jesus Christ that reconciles otherwise hopeless sinners to you. Thank you for your word. Thank you for the scriptures where we learn to see and savor your glory. Tonight, Lord, we ask for blessing and provision for an organization that not only sees and savors your glory, but desires to show your glory in our community as well. Lord, you have seen fit in your wisdom to use the likes of us as your hands and feet. May you see fit to empower and enable gospel opportunities this evening through putting upon our hearts a burden to celebrate and support this wonderful ministry. Move upon our hearts tonight, Lord. We pray in Jesus' name. Amen. And with that, I'd like to introduce to you, to get the evening started, the director of the Helpline here in Three Rivers, Don Bowen.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Good evening, and thank you, Verse by Verse. They've been with us every step of the way with all the changes that have been going on, and we appreciate them being able to still host us this evening. As he already said, I am Dawn Bowen, the director of the Three Rivers Pregnancy Helpline, and our theme this year is Simply Blessed, which is truly what we are. And those of you joining us tonight, you are in for a real treat. You're going to be learning about not only the power of prayer and faith, but of a simple $10 bill.
So what has kept you here for 20 years?
I enjoy what I do here. I enjoy pouring into people's lives. I've had clients send me letters in the mail just thanking me. Certain clients that maybe I've spent a little bit more personal time with. I'm here because I'm able to share the gospel with them.
There you go.
I'm also here because this place stands for the same thing that it stood for 20 years ago.
I'm Dawn Elkins, and my husband and I got involved with the Pregnancy Helpline a lot of years ago. Originally, became board members, and the reason we got involved is, we wanted our children, our family, to not only care about the unborn, but also the young mothers and young fathers.
So my name's Haley Hogaboom and Elkins. And this is my mom. I'm her daughter. So I got involved in the Pregnancy Helpline on a more personal level, not just from when I was little and being involved with them and the family, but probably about 6 years ago. My husband and I had just moved back to Three Rivers and just kind of looking for a sense of community, a way to help the community. And I remembered growing up, being at the Helpline. I don't remember a lot because I was really young, but I was about 5, I'd say. But I remember being there in the building, and I remember specifically the little, we have little baby model things that we get to show the moms, and about your baby's this size, when it's this, this old in your tummy and stuff like that. So I remember being really little and seeing those. But yeah, I wanted to get involved when we moved back to Three Rivers. And it was a place that was on my heart. I just drove by and I was like, hey, why don't I stop in and see how I can help?
My name is Regina, but I go by Reggie Chapman. So I became a labor and delivery nurse. I worked as a nurse for 20 years, and it was like I hit this wall. It was like, God, what else do you want me to do? And I remember going home, falling next to my bed and saying, here I am, use me. I don't know what you want me to do. I don't know what you have in mind. So I got involved with Right to Life, and I went to a couple meetings, and it was like it just lit my fire. And I thought, it makes sense because God took fishermen to be fishers of men. So why wouldn't he take a labor and delivery nurse to be involved with the pregnancy center movement, Right to Life, and all this stuff? Because that's what I know. I live it. I love it. What really bothers me is that we have nothing for pregnant women in this town. We've got things 35 miles away. You're welcome to go to Kalamazoo. You're welcome to go to Sturgis. You can go down to Elkhart. But there was nothing here for them. And I said, so what good does it do to tell somebody not to have an abortion if we don't have something right here? And it was really then that I was talking to myself. And I thought, God really planted the seed. And I remember getting hung up on the part that you needed $5,000 of startup money. It was like, okay, God, you want me to do this, but you're going to come through. You do have the cattle on 1,000 hills. But one day in the mail, I got a check from St. Paul's Lutheran Church for the amount of $10. $10. We weren't even a company yet. We weren't a nonprofit. And so I sat on it for a couple of months, like, okay, now what do I do? How do you start a pregnancy center? How do you start a nonprofit?
What a great opening. Joining me here on stage is Reggie Chapman, who you just saw in the video. Hi, Reggie.
Hi. Welcome.
I am so glad you answered the call 25 years ago. But
So am I.
the question was, how do you get one started? Share with us.
Well, I prayed. I prayed so much and so many times, but I looked to God for answers. After he sent that $10, then I knew I was a committed person. But God led me to Bible verses that I could outline in my Bible. A friend of mine, my best friend Debbie, who later became a volunteer for us, she gave me a Bible in 1994. And it has been a godsend because I've used it since then, but it's been my timeline. In July of 1994, I marked 2 Corinthians chapter 8, verse 10 to 12. Paul said last year, you were the first, not only to give, but to have the desire to do so. So now finish the work. And he goes on to say, if the willingness is there, the gift is acceptable. That $10, that $10, that was good. And so step out in faith. It was time to go to battle for life. So I prayed too about other things. I prayed for a place, I prayed for people, and I prayed for a private parking lot. We really needed that. So as far as the place went, my husband Gary and I were contemplating, where could we put a building like this? Every day, though, we'd drive into town and we drove past the building that we ended up purchasing. This building is at 1519. It was called Main North at the time, but it was a long office building, and it had been for sale for a long, long time, like about 3 years. So when I first called the man to ask him, his name was Harold Pass, if he was interested in renting this place, he said, sure, when would you have this money? And I said, well, I don't know, I got to work on that a little bit. So he would call me every month for 3 months. Do you have the money yet? No, but I have to crunch a few numbers. But all I had was my $10 bill to crush. But God knew, and we'll get to that later. But we had to crunch some numbers all right, but my husband decided that we would be the one to crunch the numbers. We weren't rich people by any means, but the owner told Gary that he would put in a good word for him at the bank. And being local people, maybe that helped, I don't know. But Gary ended up doing all the remodeling. We did purchase this building. Gary did all the remodeling, and then the first group of volunteers that came in before we were even opened, they painted and decorated. We had a very feminine theme then. We had lace curtains and peach colors. My mom, my family, our 2 sons, Christopher and Jeremy, were only 8 and 9 years old at the time. Little did they know they were going to spend the next 5 years down there in ministry. And then my second request was answered. It even came with the perfect parking lot. Even the lilacs in the springtime were just gorgeous. And it was private, it was secluded. And there were many hours spent out there under this gigantic oak tree that my husband had a picnic table put in so the significant others could sit out there and wait for the tests, or they could wait for whoever came in for counseling. So anyway then I prayed for the people. I didn't know which people I was going to need, but God sent them. Sturgis Helpline, which was called Pregnancy Helpline of St. Joe County at the time, helped us so much. They let us sit in on their meetings. At first it was just myself, and then Mary Ann came along, and they really invited us into their fold there. They shared their beginning paperwork with us. They shared their trials, their tribulations, the things they went through, because they'd been established for almost 12 years by that point. They thought it would be good, though, to have another pregnancy center in this county because we were so far away. So we needed a lawyer to start the ball rolling. I went to 3 different lawyers in this town, and all I kept getting was, that's not our expertise. That's just not quite our expertise, starting a nonprofit. So I looked at the paperwork we got from Sturgis Helpline, and I changed the names to 3 Rivers, changed the addresses, the details that we needed because we had a bigger vision at that time. And I filled out the forms, and I took it to our neighborhood attorney. He lived down the road here in North Main, Robert Dutka. He looked at it. This was a free consultation. He said it looked good. He gave his blessing, and he said, send it in. We're on our way.
What a great start. What a great start. And obviously, you got the paperwork sent back saying you were good to go.
Yep.
All right. So thinking about those early days, what advice would you give to somebody now if they feel like the Lord is kind of moving them out into an unknown arena? What could you share with them?
Well, always begin with prayer. Pray.
Amen.
Pray again, and pray some more. But always thank God for his answers, because you don't know if he's going to answer you tomorrow or if it's going to be years from now. So it's all in God's timing, and that's a lot of things I really learned about it. But be ready to sacrifice your time, your treasure, and your talent. We always ask people to give of theirs, but when it's yours, that's when it becomes a real sacrifice. And also your family, your spouse, your children. Talk it over with them. Get their support, get their prayers behind you, and get other people praying for you. Because the time will be many hours. More than just, we're open from 1 to 6 in the afternoon. Come on over. Some of those times alone with God, though, were priceless. Your treasure, your own finances might be required with this. And we were rent-free for a couple of years, but I would rather invest in eternal souls than in the extra things of life. And as for talent, I was a nurse, so I still had to work. I was working full-time. That's why we were only open on Tuesdays. But you know, again, it says, if the willingness is there, the gift was acceptable, and God took it from there.
Absolutely. All right. Thank you. Thank you for your sacrifice and your obedience that led to so many blessings. Relationships, like you said, being the key to all of this. Our next video segment is featuring some of our clients and the center early on.
Did you find it difficult to talk about hard things about life?
No, I did not. I did not find it difficult to talk about hard things because I wasn't in talking to a family member, so I didn't feel like I was going to get judged by him. You know, if I said something that, you know, maybe they would have got upset with me or something, so I got to talk with somebody else about it that could kind of see both sides of the story and kind of say, hey, you know, I probably do this, or give a little advice, and you can either take it or not.
So we have grown with our Bible studies through here. Has definitely helped. I really like how the Christmas program that they just started has been great.
Yes, my relationship with Jesus Christ has grown. I feel that with our discussions, I've just learned a lot more about Jesus Christ than it's helped me get back in with Jesus, I guess. It's helped me want to just learn more.
And my name is Mary Ann Blood, and I was co-director with Reggie at the beginning. And the story of how we actually, because we did not know each other prior to all this, I got this phone call from this person named Reggie, and who the heck is Reggie? And and she was starting a pregnancy center. They called it Crisis Pregnancy Center at those days, right? And so, anyway, she called me up and said, would I be interested in possibly volunteering? Actually, it's Reggie's personality. She just has this way of making people think, oh yeah, I could do that. So we had our opening day. We're all nervous. We've done a little bit of training, not a great deal though, honestly, for counseling. And so we all got together and came over there, and we're just all nervous. And, prayed, and of course, absolutely no one showed up. No one.
The first day.
Day, absolutely no one.
I think it has affected my life a lot. Other than meeting the people, the wonderful people here, I think I'm growing more with the Bible studies, especially that I take home every week. And the lessons the videos that we always have, they have taught me a lot, because I thought I knew about babies because I used to babysit babies in Uganda. I feel like I'm getting all the tools that I need to be a good mother to this baby. My spiritual walk has really grown, and it's because I have a week of this Bible study that I have to take, and they're kind of challenging, and I like to be challenged, and they keep me busy in reading my Bible. It keeps me motivated, because I want to, as much as I want to get the homework done, I also want to study more about the Lord, which is something I really didn't have before.
I'm not even sure how I got started, except I think Reggie knew I owned a machine shop, and she showed up with a broken crib one day. And that's, if I remember right, that's kind of how it started. At that time, it was changing because we couldn't afford to buy new ones. Right. I mean, we had to repair these. My wife and I would attend, and and you give them a check, and you say, okay, I'm done for the year, until Dale Leansvart was on the board, and he started showing up, and talking to me about getting on the board. So I started praying about it, desperately hoping that God wouldn't call me to do this. So I'm reading, and I read something, and it said that, and I think it's still true, that someday abortion would be looked at like we look at slavery. And it just really struck me. And then the next line was, what would you tell your descendants that you did to help stop it. So I thought, okay, that must be my answer.
Here's your sign.
Wow, that was an awesome video. I love the line where Marianne said, absolutely no one showed up that first day. Obviously, things changed.
Yes.
Tell me about an early story.
Oh, there's a lot of stories to be told in 5 years of pregnancy center work, believe me. But the one that really touches me the most was, it was almost closing time. I know, it sounds like a song. But it was 5:30. It was 5:30 on a Tuesday, and we closed down at 6. But it seemed like all the God moments always seemed to happen those last few minutes, because it was like, how long will you stay? How long will you stay? But a teenager came to our door and walked in, all alone. I had somewhere to be at 7 o'clock that night, but God really reined me in and said, that can wait. You need to be here. So crying, this girl is in there trying to fill out paperwork. My mom is going to kill me. My mom is going to kill me. And everything else she could totally imagine, over and over. So I got her history. I found out who she was and where she lived and what her situation was a little bit. And tried to settle her down enough so we could communicate a little bit. Well, we ran the test, and she watched and looked at the test, and her test was negative. Oh, then we were praising God and crying and thanking about the relief and everything. But I had the chance to talk to her. I said, wait a minute, because she was ready to leave. So what's going to guarantee you that you're not going to be back here next month? What about the choices you're making in your lifestyle right now? Are they healthy for you? How would this boyfriend support you? Would he want to be around if you were going to carry a baby? So she had a chance to start thinking about a lot of those things. And she said she was going to try and improve. And then she went on her way. Well, okay, 3 months later, it was more like 3 o'clock in the afternoon. It wasn't that late. But she came walking in our doors again. And I was just coming out of the office, and this time she was followed by her mother. So I thought, in my head, I'm getting ready for this. I met her at the desk with a smile, and she said, no, it's not me this time. It's not me. It's my mom. And I, wow, really? But her mom was in her 40s, and she thought she might be pregnant. And it was so cool because this daughter thought enough of us to come and bring her mother there for a non-judgmental period of time, that she felt safe, and it just really touched my heart. By the time I really got over the situation itself, I just wanted to cry then. But we learned that the best advertising was word of mouth.
Absolutely,
at that time.
Still is.
Yep. But her mom felt at ease. Her mom had a negative test also.
Awesome.
So we had 2 very happy ladies, and got a glimpse of touching generations with this ministry for years.
And that was just early on. You got
That
a
was
touch to do
early,
that.
very early, yes.
So speaking of early on, you said you'd originally started in a building that you and Gary owned, but now the wheels were turning and some more things were going on. So tell us about that next step.
Right. Around the year 2000, things started moving a little more quickly. We were kind of overtaking the basement and had baby things all over our basement in that building. And we decided maybe we should start looking for a new building. Well, I was also feeling, though, like God was trying to tell me something, that maybe it was time for me to move on, that I'd been there for 5 years, that you started the center. It was flowing. The new volunteers were coming, and the hours were expanding even. So as a labor and delivery nurse, it was time to hand over. It was my baby this time, though.
Yes, absolutely.
My baby to the next nursery nurse to care for it. And that was, this Three Rivers area. And that was to be for the next director and the next leader. But it made me realize that in 1 Corinthians chapter 3, verse 6, you can say, I planted the seed, but you, Apollos, you watered it. And that was you, the Three Rivers area. But God made it grow so that none of us gets the credit but God.
Amen to
and
that.
it was such a blessing.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing with us.
You're welcome. I was driving down East Michigan. I'd stop at people's houses and ask them if they wanted to sell their house. They were working on the new high school over there, and we already had the middle school, and I knew it needed to be over by the kids. So came down the other side of the street, and I really felt a hand hit my shoulder and say, that's the one. And that's Dr. Park and Dr. Lee's office then. They'd been there 25 years. They'd never moved. They'd always been there. I'm going to go see this guy. He took me all around and showed me all around, and they had a really bad leak in the ceiling, but there was a swimming pool up there that was catching it in the suspended ceiling, and we had red shag carpet on the floor that was this thick. And it was 25 years, it never changed. And he says, okay, well, how much do you pay right now? And I told him, and he says, okay, you pay me rent for 3 years and you can have this building. It was like, there's God saying again, here it is on a silver platter.
My parenting classes have helped me in that I have somebody, a mother-like figure, I guess, to be able to talk to and express my emotions to and kind of get some insight from somebody outside of my home and somebody who has a good relationship with Jesus. I feel like my parenting skills have changed in a lot of ways. I feel like I'm more gentle parenting and I'm more conscious about how I'm talking to my kids or the rules that I have for my kids or the time that I spend with my kids has been just a lot better. Yeah.
We had an abortion-minded woman come in, and she had her pregnancy test and was found pregnant, and she was offered to have an ultrasound done, and she did say yes. So when I brought her in, I think I might cry. Started her ultrasound, and she saw her baby moving. And she just burst into tears, and she chose to choose life for her baby, even though all of her support system was telling her otherwise. It is a blessing. It's a beautiful thing to be able to do, to show life to a woman, and even maybe her significant other. There's nothing like it. There's nothing like it. You know, God really can work through those experiences.
Amen, Pat. Amen. She talks about getting ready to cry. I can't tell you how many times I've watched that video, and I still do the same thing. So I want to make a quick correction in the previous video. They were showing you the building in that last video. That was actually the one that Gary and Reggie had bought, the one with the lilac bushes. The building, when she was talking about the kiddie pool in the ceiling catching the water, that's our current building, and yeah, it's on the screen now. The cool part is there's no kiddie pool in the ceiling anymore. We had a very generous donor about 8 years ago put a new roof on it. So much has happened since those red shag carpet days. Last fall, when we started planning our spring benefit, Shirley, our director of development, thought 25 years, it would be a good time to write down the history of the Helpline. Because we had lost so many documents, newspaper articles, and photos when our basement flooded in 2018, she started contacting anybody she could from the past of the Helpline. She wanted to interview them and take good notes. What came from all of those hours of interviewing are part of the videos you're seeing here tonight. Also, as a result of Shirley's very hard work, we were able to create a 25-year anniversary booklet. It's just a snippet of all the blessings that God has brought to our center in the last 25 years. And I don't know if you're aware, but it's been over 15 months since we've had our last benefit. I know some of you are probably thinking 15 months. The last 5 has felt like a lifetime alone. Had you been at our benefit last April, I spoke about a client who was a no-show for her ultrasound the day of the benefit. Silence. Then 2 months later, she showed back up at our door, still pregnant. In July, we brought a mobile medical unit into the Engedi Music Festival in Leonidas, and we projected that young lady's baby live ultrasound on a giant screen for everybody to see. It was an awesome moment. Come fall, we brought that mobile medical unit back to the St. Joe County Fair For tours, we started fundraising with a dollar drive, a penny pyramid. We wanted to bring awareness to this because we were launching a capital campaign for our own mobile unit. We had decided it was time to take our services into the community instead of just waiting for them to come to us. During that same time, we had another client determined to have an abortion. Multiple ultrasounds, more than 200 texts back and forth between her and I. Then receiving a text with the words that says, "I'm keeping my baby." She, some of you may have recognized, was the subject of the bulletin inserts we did for our Sanctity of Human Life month at the beginning of the year. 2019 was rocking ever since our last benefit. We had the largest offering given at our last benefit. It just felt like the Lord was blessing us and things were going nonstop. And even in addition to the babies saved and those mamas choosing life, we also had parents, or a lot of guys and gals, attend our parenting classes. You've heard some of them in the videos, and you're going to be hearing more from them this evening. Building relationships and sharing God's love, it's what we love to do. And it's even more rewarding when they respond in kind and would change lives. When things are going well, it's really easy to praise God, hallelujah, right? And serve Him when things are clicking along. Enter 2020. Everybody was using that year as a clever catchphrase of 2020 vision. I'm pretty sure we didn't know in January what was coming our way. However, in February, one of our volunteers was blessed to be in a delivery room with a client. Close to midnight, Becky arrived at the hospital. She donned on a hospital gown, and she went into the room with Ashlyn. She was there to hold Ashlyn's hand during the C-section, and then she got to hold Brenton when he arrived. Becky will tell you that that is a moment she will never forget. Being there and building relationships. By early March, we had already done 18 pregnancy tests. We were going on a banner year. 17 ultrasounds. We were clicking along. Then, as you all know, boom. What is going on? It's like we were all part of some bizarre science fiction movie, except for it was really happening to us. In the blink of an eye, fear, uncertainty, and boatloads of questions started to grow. The social media posts and everything just exploded. Communities were trying to navigate these uncharted waters. Essential? What's essential? What does that even mean? At the center, I think we spent this much time. Tamara said to me, "We're open." And we thought, you know what? If Planned Parenthood is open, you better darn well believe we're going to stay open. And we did. In March, with minimal staffing, we did stay open. We continued to offer STD testing, pregnancy testing, as well as meeting people's material needs. A lot of people were staying in, but they weren't getting supplies. They would call us and say, "Do you have this, that, or the other?" If we had it, we let them have it. And if they couldn't come get it, we would even deliver it to them. We knew we needed to be there for this community, who, again, were kind of caught up in the fear of what was going on. And during that time, because our nurses were not available, Dr. Howard, our medical director, came in to do ultrasounds. Sometimes coming off a 12-hour or a 24-hour shift. His wife would drive him in the car, and she would wait in the back parking lot with all of their children while he came in and did the ultrasounds. It was a beautiful sacrifice. Thank you, Dr. Howard. In fact, Dr. Howard came in just yesterday to do an ultrasound. Now it's my turn to cry. The client had been in 2 weeks ago for a previous ultrasound. Her pregnancy test was very early, or her pregnancy was very early. And just last week when she was at her doctor's appointment, they told her there was no baby. They gave her some misoprostol, it's a medicine, and they sent her home. You know, sometimes the Lord just asks us to be present. She came in yesterday. After a positive pregnancy test from us, the ultrasound did confirm she had miscarried. Though she was never abortion vulnerable, she was very much emotionally vulnerable. To be able to be in that room, hold her hand, cry, and pray with her was a gift that we were given yesterday. Loving people the way Jesus taught us to love. Yeah, I could use some Kleenex. That would be great. Thank you. Finally, with the proper guidelines in place, we opened our parenting classes again. Our guys and girls were anxious to be back, and we were so glad to have them. It had been a long time. We missed them, they missed us. And since the start of COVID, when we couldn't meet with our parenting classes, 6 babies had been born to the clients. And when we opened back up, what a blessing it was. They were bringing their babies back. We could see them. Now it's August. And it still feels like we're in that movie, doesn't it? You know, I'm no science fiction girl, I can tell you that. But I'm thinking we might like to do some Back to the Future stuff right now to change the trajectory of where we seem to be heading. I don't own a DeLorean, though. I don't know how many of you do. And thank the Lord, we don't need one to go back. What we need is prayer and a better understanding of the times we live and how God wants us to respond so we can change people's future. Of the current generation that most likely to use our services, you know, only 50% of them have driver's license these days. They have been raised with a phone in their hand, and they're far more comfortable with anything done on this phone than any of their predecessors. They're also content with staying in as a form of emotional safety. And because of that, connecting with them is becoming more problematic. We know building relationships, shoulder to shoulder, face to face, is important. You've heard from those folks in the videos, Mickey and Nathan, Fiona, Ashlyn, and Yvonne, all talking about the power of that connection, of being with each other in person. Not sure how many of you have been watching the series The Chosen. It goes into great detail to develop characters' relationships with each other. People long for relationship. We are designed by God to be in relationship. And we know it's universal because this series has been breaking viewer records all over the globe. Relationship is what we're designed for, and we're designed to be that way with God first and with others. Our society is ruled by fear, fear of death, fear of sickness, fear of loneliness, fear of meaninglessness. Our world doesn't know hope because there is no hope without Jesus Christ. This COVID crisis is the perfect opportunity. The field is ripe for the harvest. Send out the workers. And as Reggie said in the previous video, it's like God is saying, here it is on a silver platter. Now, I know our idea of God's blessings look more like 2019, awesome year. But you know what? This is our moment. This is the 2020 vision God has given us. We are the hope that Christ is sending to the very angry, fearful, and lost. Our medical mobile unit is already built. You saw a picture of it. We need $65,000 more to bring it home. What a great way to reach those who don't drive. What a great way to reach those who live their lives within like a 4-block radius of their home. Can you imagine how we can change their future? They won't have to live in fear. They can hear truth without grace. Or I'm sorry, with grace, not without grace. Get that one right. Feel love without condemnation. And they can build relationships with real people outside of their phones. We have a role to play. You have a role to play. Not only do we want to end abortion, we want to end the idea that abortion is even a viable option. We want to end hopelessness. We want to introduce people to Jesus Christ our Lord. And we need you. We need volunteers, medical and non-medical. We need steadfast prayer warriors. This battle is getting ugly, and it's just going to get uglier. We need financial support for our mobile unit as well as our regular budget. Interviewing Reggie at the beginning of this, she said, listening to the Lord and being obedient to the Lord requires sacrifice. What does that look like for you? Bruce said in the video, what would you tell your descendants you did to stop abortion? Only you and God know the answer to that. Amen.
Well, I think, again, when we started, it was definitely a learning curve, and the vision grew as the time went. I mean, obviously the first vision was giving pre-pregnancy tests and hopefully saving babies. But again, we realized that if you save a baby, you need to also save the mom. And so, of course, giving a Bible and praying with them right then was important, but even then creating a mentoring situation. And in order to create the mentoring situation, we knew we had to do an incentive program. In the very beginning, we always gave away things, but we realized that just giving them clothing or diapers or whatever, and then they just walk out the door, wasn't enough. They needed that mentoring. They needed that ongoing relationship with us to help them as they hopefully gave their lives to Christ and of course became a mother. Whatever their path was, they needed something more from us, and so that was the vision growing. The vision growing from beyond just the pregnancy test to the vision growing to a relationship.
I have spoken to other girls who are pregnant or who have young children or who could really need an extra hand about the pregnancy helpline. I've talked to people on Facebook about the pregnancy helpline. I've suggested to some people about, I have some extra clothes and, who needs them? Well, you could donate them to the pregnancy helpline, or, I'm just really struggling. Well, call the pregnancy helpline because it's helped me a ton. I mean, I've gotten a crib for my new baby and I've gotten a car seat for my new baby, and it's really taken a lot of stress and a lot of burden off of my shoulders. So
it makes you feel good to feel like you're really furthering the kingdom in a very different way than just something that we do in our normal day-to-day churches and stuff like that. So it's just a different avenue to serve God.
So we were just really focused on different fundraisers, different programs, opportunities. I know Reggie talked for a long time about the ultrasounds, and it was always something new we were trying to come up with, and to help it to be what we hoped it would be 25 years later.
I feel I'm benefiting a lot from coming here every Monday, and I always look forward to coming here.
My relationship with him has changed a lot. Again, like I was saying, I pretty much was an atheist when I came here, and now I was baptized. I'm going to church twice a week. It's kind of the complete opposite of what happened, and that was just due to him. Especially since I'm going to church and learning and doing even research like outside in my own home, and then coming here and doing it. It's really just been 180. I mean, I'm a complete opposite person. Yeah, new creation.
That's awesome.
If you would have told me when you were first hired in that we would be in the place we're at, we're beginning the process of a $200,000 capital campaign, I absolutely would have never believed it. To think that this center would be at this point in the amount of time we are. So talking about blessing, this is just part of God's blessing.
Absolutely.
What I say is thank you for your help and your support. That way me and Mickey can, have a better chance at, living life.
And I have to say, any pregnancy center, anybody who's doing something pro-life is, of course, my hero. But the one thing that's really particularly beautiful about our particular pregnancy center is that some of them have just sort of stagnated. They do the same thing they've done for, however many years they've been in existence. But ours has always grown. There's always been another vision that God has given to a new level, a new something, to grow and continue to flourish. And it's just, I don't know, I think that's really beautiful. And I really think that's God's heart, that it doesn't just end, that you don't just get comfortable in your pew, but you will, but that you keep growing, and that's true for Pregnancy Helpline of Three Rivers, right?
Yeah.
Hi, my name is Laura Riso, and I'm a family nurse practitioner. I have been with the Pregnancy Helpline since the banquet in April last year. Since I've been there over the past year, we were able to get our STD testing up and running, so that was very exciting. And I just want to say that volunteering at the Pregnancy Helpline is amazing. The women that I get to work with every week are wonderful, and it's like another family. We do need more nurses, so if it's something you're considering, please volunteer with us. It's a lot of fun. So a few weeks ago, I was talking to Dawn about how all the planning of the benefit was going, and she said, I feel like this is our Gideon moment. So I would like all of you to think about the story of Gideon for just a moment. At the beginning of this year, we had a plan for all of us to be together for our banquet in April. We were all going to be at this beautiful church, verse by verse in Three Rivers, and we had seating for over 350 people. We were going to hold a reverse auction to help in the fundraising for the mobile unit, as well as our annual operating budget. We were going to have our mobile unit set up on site so you could all tour it and get excited with us for this vast potential that this unit has for our hurting communities. But God said, no, it's too big. This event is about me. Then COVID-19 hit. No problem. We would just postpone the banquet until August and proceed as before. Then the first mandate came out. We could not have more than 25% capacity in-house. So we decided to have multiple sites, 10 sites to be exact. Each of these sites could potentially host 30 to 100 people safely within these guidelines. But God said, nope, still too big. The next mandate and our current situation is no more than 10 people inside, and with the exception of worship in houses of worship. At this point, we knew God had big plans for this event and for our center this year. We wanted to make sure that each of you joining us tonight, albeit virtually, would also see and know how God has worked through this center from the start. So we mailed out our yearbooks to each one of you. I hope you've enjoyed seeing God work through our history and through the stories you have heard here tonight. So back to today, we've been here in COVID for 5 months now. Coronavirus has tried to slow down and shut down this event, but God has other plans. Thank you for being obedient to the call to be a part of God's plans for the Pregnancy Helpline of Three Rivers. We have 2 different envelopes here tonight. The first one is for the mobile unit, and it's got a little symbol in the bottom, so you know which one that is. So we still need $65,000 for our mobile unit to get that up and running. The second envelope here is for our annual operating budget. We need around $150,000 a year to operate. We need one-time gifts, We need monthly donations. And if you're watching from home, there's a website listed at the bottom of the screen, pregnancyhelpline.org/give. You can go there as well to donate. You can also indicate on the envelope, the website, or stop in and visit us if you'd like to respond to the call to volunteer with us and join our family of volunteers. You won't regret it. The importance of the Pregnancy Helpline, and more specifically the mobile unit, is greater now more than ever. These women that find themselves in an unplanned pregnancy, regardless if they're thrilled or terrified to be pregnant, are asking, what happens now? What's going to happen to me? What about my baby? What kind of a world will my child grow up in, even after the pandemic is over? Will I be able to care and provide for them? It is more urgent now, more than ever, to share this hope and love that we have in Jesus Christ. With the mobile unit, we can multiply our efforts by going to the people who need us where they need us. I would like you to consider that by saving a baby, you're taking part in reestablishing family trees. When you, through God's grace, save one life, and that one life will have another and another. By saving one baby, you're saving a whole branch of a family tree. The Pregnancy Helpline of Three Rivers needs your time, your talent, and your treasure. We need prayer warriors. Pray for us and the men, women, and children, born and unborn, that come through our doors. We need nurses. We are trusting God that tonight we will raise the $65,000 remaining for our mobile unit to launch this mission onto the streets in St. Joseph County and the surrounding areas. We are trusting that He will send us the nurses to staff this unit so that we can be out in the community 6 days a week. We need peer mentors to come and encourage and share the good news of Jesus Christ with everyone who walks through our doors. I want to say something about the volunteers at our center. These are selfless women, there are some men as well, who are giving their time, their talent, and their treasure to further the kingdom of God. This group of caring and compassionate men and women are like another family. We're able to gather together in fellowship and build each other up with encouragement. Come be a part of something great. Financially, the center needs around $150,000 a year to operate and serve this community. We need supporters who will make one-time donations tonight of any amount, and we need supporters who will financially give faithfully every month to keep this mission going. I think Dawn has done an excellent job tonight in outlining the importance and the urgency of this work. My hope for tonight is that you can see the vital need for each of us to invest sacrificially into this work. Now we all have an opportunity to respond to the call given tonight, not only by the speakers, but by God Almighty. Whatever you do, whatever is in your mind, I want you to consider doubling it. This is something I learned from my parents and have seen in action. You can't outgive God, and His returns through blessings in our lives is always worth it. This is an opportunity for you to store up your treasures in heaven, where moth and rust can't destroy and thieves can't break in and steal. Where else and what else can you do with the money that God has loaned you, because it's all His, that would establish family trees for generations to come, to not only impact a physical life, but a spiritual life as well? We give to show where our priorities are. God cares about the unborn baby. He cares about these women who are in difficult situations and struggles. He cares about these men who may have never have heard about the hope of Jesus. If you're a faithful supporter already, you have probably already seen God's faithfulness through your sacrificial giving, and we would love to hear your testimony. Consider the long-term effect of your gift tonight. There is nothing that you can do with your income, not the car you drive, the clothes you wear, or the size of your house, to the long-term benefit of your gift tonight to the Pregnancy Helpline of Three Rivers. Your sacrificial giving means another scared young woman will have a chance to hear about Jesus and maybe accept Jesus as her Savior for the first time. Your giving means we can come alongside another young man and teach him how to be a father his kids will look up to. Your giving could result in another child being born and living out his God-given potential. I would like each of you to prayerfully consider what God is asking you to invest in this ministry, and then say, yes, as for me and my house, we will serve the Lord. What is the cost of saving one life? What is the worth of that one life? What is the value of sharing the hope of Jesus and leading that one woman or man to Christ? What is the eternal impact that this will have on the mother of this child? No amount is too small to give, and also no amount is too large. I want to pray for us tonight, and let's go to the Lord in prayer to guide our hearts in making this decision. Lord Jesus, we don't all understand all that is going on around us, the times that we are in, but we do understand enough about you to trust that you have a plan and a will for such a time as this. We know that you are faithful and true, and that you will make a way. Help us to know tonight what you would ask of us, whether it be a gift of our time, our talent, or our treasure. Take these gifts that we're about to receive, shake them down, cause them to overflow and multiply for your glory and for the advancement of your kingdom. In the name of Jesus, your will be done. Amen. Thank you for hearing my appeal, and I hope and pray that you'll respond as well.
Wow. What a powerful hour. This pastor's heart is beating. You know, this morning as the ladies were preparing for the evening, I sat to the stage off to the side there and listening to Laura speak. At the end, the Lord put a text, a rather heavy text, into my heart, and I want to share that with you tonight. This was nothing planned. Again, we let the Spirit move as he sees fit. Sort of looked over this text as she was speaking and felt a flood of confirmation there as well. Now, to be sure, we will bear the full counsel of God's word to weigh upon this text as well. But I want you to hear this. This is Christ teaching his disciples concerning the final judgment. Matthew 25, beginning in verse 31. But when the Son of Man comes in glory, and all the angels with him, then he will sit upon his glorious throne. All the nations will be gathered before him, and he will separate them one from another as a shepherd separates the sheep from the goats. And he will put the sheep on his right and the goats on his left. Then the king will say to those on his right, "Come, you who are blessed of my Father, inherit the kingdom prepared for you from the foundation of the world. For I was hungry, and you gave me something to eat. I was thirsty, and you gave me something to drink. I was a stranger, and you invited me in. Naked, and you clothed me. I was sick, and you visited me. I was in prison, and you came to me." Then the righteous will answer him, "Lord, when did we see you hungry and feed you, or thirsty or give you something to drink? And when did we see you a stranger and invite you in, or naked and clothe you? When did we see you sick or in prison and come to you?" And the king will answer and say to them, "Truly I say to you, to the extent that you did it to one of these brothers of mine, even the least of them, you did it to me." And then he will also say to those on his left, and this is the tough part, but we must deal with it, it's in the text, "Depart from me, accursed ones, into the eternal fire which has been prepared for the devil and his angels. For I was hungry, and you gave me nothing to eat. I was thirsty, and you gave me nothing to drink. I was a stranger, and you did not invite me, and naked, and you did not clothe me, sick and in prison, and you did not visit me." And they themselves will also answer, "Lord, when did we see you hungry or thirsty or a stranger or naked or sick or in prison and did not take care of you?" And then he will answer to them, truly I say to you, to the extent that you did not do it to one of the least of these, you did not do it to me. Brothers and sisters, to be sure, to bring the full counsel of God to bear upon this text, it is absolutely unquestionable that we are saved by grace alone, through faith alone, in Christ alone, and by nothing that we do or give. This is the truth of God's word. And yet, the book of James, the epistle of 1 John, speak to this idea that we're not saved by doing these things. We're not saved by giving. We're not saved by doing well. But being saved, the fruit of the saved believer is to do those things. What the Word of God is telling us is that evidence of the indwelling Spirit within produces these fruits in a believer. I hope you have felt as powerfully about this hour as I have. And I want to challenge you, don't be the church. Don't play the church, be the church. And so I'm asking you, I'm challenging you, love well, live well, give well, and you shall be well. I'd like to close with a prayer. And thank you for attending this hour with us. Heavenly Father, thank you, God, for your crystal clear command in your word to be the people of God. Father, I pray that you would move upon our hearts out of the cheerfulness of our hearts and out of the desire to plug in and be a part of something so special, so critical, so necessary to the sanctity of life in our community. There is tremendous dignity and value in each and every human being made in your image. And so, Father, I pray your Spirit would press upon us in a most unusual way this evening, to give not out of compulsion, but to give out of a heart that seeks to savor the glory of God, and so savor the glory of God that we would show the glory of God. Father, thank you in advance for the way that you're going to move, for this wonderful ministry. All praise and glory and honor to you alone. Thank you for allowing us to be a part of your work. And we ask these things now in the matchless name of our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. And the people of God said, Amen. Go, delight in the Lord, be blessed. May his glory shine upon your countenance. And we will see you soon. Amen.